Welcome. This is your first side conversation that's officially on the record.
I had remembered. I was trying to get on, and then right when you texted, I realized I didn't have a link.
And then once you got on, I was doing something else and didn't see the admit me button, so it took a little while, but here we are.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do their, I guess, Zoom or stuff on their cell phone, but the screen's too small for me. I don't like using my cell phone if I don't have to.
Yeah, and also I think that one of the nice things about iMessages on my phone is that it also shows up on my Mac.
Oh.
When people text me a link, I can do it there, but
yeah.
So,
Android and Windows don't work that way.
Yes, maybe someday you'll get a Chromebook so you have one of each. All right, so I told, normally I have my 1:30 call with Joe, but I told him I'd be late since we may not figure out how to fix the church before then. But 30 minutes should be enough. Just to, I don't know if you had peeked at the Google Doc that Ted sent around, but lots of people have been adding their thoughts onto it. So I pasted your text chat into that, if that's okay.
That's great. Yeah, sorry. I did see it after you and I texted each other this morning. Yeah, I guess I forgot that there was going to be a Google Doc, so I apologize for that.
Well, I'm just impressed that anybody at all is using it, but in fact, people seem to be diving in, which is great because I have all these ideas. And the funny thing was, I was thinking about putting either like a wiki or a spreadsheet or whatever. And so Ted just threw a Google Doc out there and people started using it. And that was great. Anyway, you want to just give you a chance to at least review what you wrote there and make sure that isn't there anything else you want to tweak or edit before we go on to the next question?
No, I mean, that's what I would say. I probably would have my wife or others tell me that we're already doing that, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like it to me, but it's possible that I haven't attended a lot of church events. Like our church does a Serve Fullerton, Love Fullerton thing every year, and usually it's in May, and that's always the worst time. It has been typically the worst time month for me. So I could be, I'm partly shooting myself in the foot, I'm sure.
Right. No, but this is good. So the nice thing about this group, David, no one's going to tell you, oh, don't worry about it. The church is fine. Nothing is wrong. The more likely reaction is, no, you're wrong about what's wrong with the church. And so what I wanted to do, and kind of the whole point of today's exercise, is just trying to get, everyone has a perspective. Everyone in our group has a perspective of what's wrong with the church and out in the world. And we are trying to figure out how to, well, I just want to figure out what people think is, actually, let me read that. It's not what people think. I want to figure out what's on people's hearts. Like most people think there's something that's really wrong that just bugs them deeply. And they really would like to see God fix it one way or another. And, I'm sort of, with a little bit of effort, sort of shoving it into this format of symptom diagnosis, prescription prognosis.
Yeah, I think for me, and I know the world doesn't revolve around me.
But this conversation does revolve around
you. Just based on probably both external, but I internalized it. So I know that I've fed it. So external and internal messages growing up, just feeling different and not valued. And so that triggers my, actually, that's why I think I have a problem, why I'm pretty emotionally reactive to abandonment. And so when people leave a group, like our adult fellowship class, and it's just because it's not convenient for them, even if it's for a good reason, like having to move away, though I understand that, it hurts.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so part of that is definitely, well, so the emotional reaction is to a series of things, but I think there's something deeper there, right? In that, like, let me put it this way: there's things that just bug you because they bug you, but there are things that bug you because God is probably not happy with it either, right?
Yeah, I haven't really thought of it that way.
Because I think there's there's
I tend to think I messed up enough that I'm not on the same page with God ever, but maybe that's.
So, but the, I mean, I thought that was a lovely rant you had there. If I could summarize that, is that maybe that people don't really seem serious about making church work.
Yeah, 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 including myself. I had to include myself in that. It's safer, it's easier, less suffering, if you will, to avoid suffering, like we've talked about, how we do that in our culture. To not, what did you say, to not make church work?
Yeah, just make church actually work, like do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I was at Biola or APU, right? You didn't want to go to chapel, but you went to chapel because you had to you had to meet a certain limit.
An
And
expectation.
So you would just go and flip your number to show you were there.
Oh yeah, I had a really weird experience with my son today or this week, in that he's pretty good about doing like the schoolwork, but horrible about jumping through all the hoops necessary to get it submitted in the right way so that it gets counted, which has been exacerbated by COVID.
Yeah.
And so, like, we have all these sessions where we say, okay, well, it doesn't matter how much you've learned or whether you did the work. What matters is you have to turn it in. And then my son said, I figured out this really clever way to actually look like I'm completing the work without actually having to do part of it. And I'm going, wait, what exactly have we taught my son? And like, should I be proud of him, ashamed of him? Because like, am I saying the important thing is to actually look like you're working, not actually to learn anything? If like he does all the work to learn stuffing and then I yell at him because he doesn't get stuff. So I don't even know what the right answer to that is.
Well, I think it's hard I know it's hard for me to remember to look at things as doing whatever for it, like the spirit of the law, right? Rather than what do they call that? The spirit of the law versus
the form or the letter.
Yeah. And to follow the spirit of whatever it is so that you get the cause and effect from it that, is good for you.
Yeah.
But instead of, and it's better, I think, to do that and fail than it is to turn something in without, or, not turn in, but whatever you're doing.
Do we care more about the appearance of virtue rather than the cultivation of virtue?
Yeah.
Right.
And growing up, I always was really hard on myself and strict about the markings I got, rather than looking at, okay, why did I, not do so well on that homework or that project or that test? What do I need to learn? It was performance based rather than spirit, if you will.
Yeah. it's like what you just talked about at the very beginning. You feel like if you don't act the way a good Christian is supposed to act, like you ask questions or you struggle with things, people punish you for that. As opposed to actually asking the question, wow, what if you're right? It's a great, the Great Reset is testing the limits of this in terms of like, hey, what if everything we're doing is wrong? And it's a good thing that people are saying that. How do we ever get out of that? So we'll find out on Tuesday. But
yeah, it's and I think this is actually this goes to the very problem I have with this job search, with interviewing.
Yeah.
Trying to get the right answers rather than and feeling horrible about myself for not having the right answers, not passing the interview, getting a job rather than, whatever the spirit of that would be. And in fact, I would, this is maybe my little rant on society today, corporate America, because I think they're doing that in reverse to the interviewees. They're looking for the right answers and stuff rather than looking at someone's personality, spirit, character, adaptability, adept to learn quickly, aptitude.
Yeah. They're not valuing the actual character traits that make for success.
Yeah. Yeah. They just want a robot that knows it all. It seems like. Maybe, I mean, probably not everyone, but. Now, to that end, I have to own my part of it, right? My part of it is that I was not keeping up in my career. I was just doing the job that I had at Quest Software or at FileNet, and before that at other places. Not trying to like renew my license, if you will, like a psychologist has to every year, or a doctor. So, I have to own that.
So here's the thing. So, and I think this is great because, and what I love about you is let's focus on the personal, right? We have all these abstract theories of what's wrong in the world, but this is actually what's wrong with your part of the world and wrong with you in it, right? And what you would love is that, and that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the dream is that if you have a desire, even if it's just a smoking wick, let someone say, hey, I see that desire. That's the most precious thing in the universe. Let me steward that with you and turn that into something that is achievable for you.
And I'm hoping God and Jesus are like that.
Oh dear God, you've been in the church for almost 50 years, and we have not shown you a God who's like that, have we?
I've been wondering.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a fair thing to wonder about because the way people act in church, it is not at all obvious, right? The God we see in church is, well, you better toe the line because if you step out of line, you will get crucified. And that's not meant to be a good thing. Because only criminals and thieves should get crucified, right? Wait, no. Ah, my brain is stuck. Breathe, breathe. Okay, so what would church feel like if we actually did this?
What would it feel like?
Feel like or look like?
Or be like? Yeah. I think it has to be, it can't just be head knowledge, right? Programs, this seminar, this weekend seminar, that weekend seminar, and, and sermons, and just talking about it in the adult fellowship. It's actually got to be experienced. We have to practice it to others, and we need to experience it from others, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess one example of performance-based in the church, and again, there are probably good reasons for it. But when I was doing children's music with with the other band members that were doing it with me, we did it for a couple of years. It was a really enjoyable ministry. We were doing it for like the fifth graders and sixth graders. But then we got a new children's pastor at our church. He rearranged everything, and then that ended. And that was hard, and I felt kind of fired, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying he shouldn't have rearranged things. Actually, you know what? Actually, before he rearranged things, they actually started doing worship over YouTube with the kids. YouTube worship. And I'm like, you'd rather YouTube worship than live? You have live people willing to do this, get there early in the morning. But that's what happened. And then I received an email that if I wanted to do music at the because they send out this whole church survey of where you want to serve and stuff. So then I put music. Well, then I was told to do music anywhere in the church, I need to come for an audition. And I was like, you're not serious. I already was doing it. You were fine with it when our church was going through a hard time for the kids. And now that we're building back up and getting pastors and stuff, now I have to audition. So anyway, that's a very personal example.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What's funny is that this is similar to the conflict I'm going through with David, and I'm not even sure what I should be doing, because like I had some concerns about how David handled the moderation on Tuesday, and he acknowledged he did those things, and I said I didn't think they were right. He disagreed with me. It's like, I'm not sure what to do with that, because like I don't want him to do stuff I disagree with. But like what you're saying was like, well, maybe that's the problem with the church, is that we have these standards and, we don't really honor people who want to do stuff. So, Ted's actually taken over the decision, which I think is a good thing. And he's going to talk to David about actually doing it. And I think that's actually the right thing, is that David and I have enough history that it's possible I'm not seeing clearly. And even forgetting all that, it's like we have to be a place where we work through these differences rather than just saying, oh, I'm sorry, that's not convenient for me, go away.
Mm.
And I think that's the thing that I'm really trying to press into, in that I'm not even sure I'm doing this right.
No, but
And
you're doing trust me. I mean, as a witness, I mean, I can't believe the calling out that you put up with. Serious, and you haven't told anyone to go away. And I do not have anywhere close to as thick a skin as you do.
Well, thank you, David. It's just let's just say I've had a really good role model for what it looks like to be crucified.
Mm. And you haven't told people to go away.
No, I mean, last time I did sort of overrule David, and I honestly, I'm two minds of whether that was the right thing to do, because there is a reality that if we don't have any boundaries and people aren't held accountable for breaking them, then people can also feel hurt and bruised and not come back. And it's the hardest thing that I have found is for empathy to have two sides, right? If you're worried about, like, I was worried about David calling out Bill.
Yeah, me too. That stressed me out.
Yeah, and I'm talking to Bill to find out, and I appreciate your validating that emotion. But then what does that mean? Does that mean I shouldn't have empathy for David's feelings? Like if you have a musician who plays badly, do you have empathy for the musician? Do you have empathy for the people who have to listen to it?
True.
Yeah, and those are not easy decisions. But I think the where I am coming to is two things. One is that ideally we should have empathy on both sides. We should actually feel for everyone.
Mm.
The problem with that then is you end up, well, first of all, it's not really possible. And secondly, when you get close to it, you become paralyzed. Because it's much easier to make a decision when you're sure you're right and you feel like you have all the information you need. And the more you realize that, wow, there's so many complications and ramifications, any decision I make is fraught and you get paralyzed. So I think the only way forward is to acknowledge our finitude and say, okay, I see part of it. I feel part of it. I understand part of it. And embrace the people who see things differently. And then consciously choose the narrative you want people to remember. Mm-hmm. And, for this situation, in this context, the most authentic, Christ-honoring thing I can do is this. And it might well be wrong. And I'm totally open to, and make sure that I am the one who bears the consequences of it. That, I think, is the thing that is the best you can do, is because if you say, well, you go away and deal with it, then they have to deal with the consequences if you're wrong. And the best I can over say, okay, stay with me, work with me, and figure it out. And so,
well, I think isn't that kind of what, I mean, not that God's wrong, but isn't that what he kind of does with us when we think he's wrong?
Yeah, I think that the weirdest thing about God, which has puzzled people for millennia, is why doesn't he just fix everything? And I think
I've struggled with that a lot.
And I think it's this. I think maybe this is part of the answer to that. It's like, well, if he fixed everything, then we could stay children and we would never get the learning.
Mm.
And you remember Romans, close with this so I can catch our friend Joe.
Sure.
You remember Romans 8:28?
Sorry, not off the top of my head.
Yeah, the way it's usually quoted is God works out all things for good to those who love him. Do you remember what the full verse is?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and that's the funny part, is that that's only half the verse.
If we do according to his will?
No, it's not.
Oh.
And this is fascinating on so many levels. Let's go with the Living Translation. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. So it's not based on perfection or obedience. It's love and calling. And what's God's purpose? You would think it would be an important thing if that was actually what the condition was. But no one ever talks about that. They usually stop with just those who love God. It's like, no. What is this for? For God knew his people in advance, and he chose them to become like his son, so that his son would be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. Everything works out for the good if you're willing to follow Jesus to the cross and become like him. And if you want to have his character and his compassion.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, totally. Yeah. Wow.
It's like,
it shouldn't be wow.
That almost explains everything.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
All right. So you good with these notes here? Just read them over.
I am. Thank you so much. Because it would have been hard for me to follow that template, but
yeah, well, it's a novel template, and
not because of the way it's written or anything. It's just the way I operate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not sure it's natural for anybody. I'm really grateful that people are diving in and trying it, and I'm really excited to find out what God does next.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
You continue to bless me
and
inspire me. All right.
All
have
right.
a good one.
Yeah, have a
Bye.
good weekend. Bye.